The storm had arrived without warning, which was typical for New Meridian. Devon Caster pressed his palm against the transparent dome of his greenhouse, watching purple lightning tear across the alien sky. His research station sat at the edge of the colony, surrounded by fields of experimental crops that were slowly teaching Earth plants to thrive in foreign soil. It was lonely work, but Devon had chosen this life deliberately. After the chaos of Earth's overcrowded cities, he craved the quiet rhythm of growing things. His evening routine was simple and comforting. He moved through the greenhouse checking moisture levels, adjusting nutrient feeds, and speaking softly to the tomato plants that reminded him of his grandmother's garden back home. The red fruits hung heavy on their vines, a small victory against a hostile environment outside. Devon had just reached for his watering can when the sky exploded. The impact shook the entire structure. Devon dropped to his knees as glass panels rattled overhead. Through the transparent walls, he saw something burning bright orange as it streaked across the darkening sky. The object was small, no larger than a personal transport pod, and it was falling directly toward his property. He watched in frozen horror as it crashed into the field beyond his vegetable beds, sending up a fountain of purple dirt and twisted metal. Devon grabbed his emergency kit and ran outside, his heart hammering against his ribs. The rain had started, fat drops that felt wrong against his skin, slightly warmer than water should be. He reached the crash site within minutes, expecting to find wreckage and casualties. What he found instead stopped him cold. Two figures were climbing out of the smoking pod, and they were impossibly small. Devon stood at average height for a human male, but these beings barely reached his chest. They were clearly female in form, their bodies proportioned like humans but distinctly alien in their details. The first one had skin that seemed to absorb and reflect light simultaneously, creating an effect like liquid moonlight. Her eyes were large and expressive, colored a deep violet that reminded Devon of Earth's twilight. She wore clothing that appeared to be woven from something organic, shifting colors as she moved. The second alien was even more striking. Her skin held a faint luminescence, as if tiny stars lived just beneath the surface. Her hair floated around her head in defiance of gravity, each strand glowing softly gold. When she turned to look at Devon, her eyes were completely silver, without visible pupils, yet somehow he knew she was seeing him with perfect clarity. They both stared at him. Devon stared back. The rain intensified. "Are you hurt?" Devon finally managed, his voice barely audible over the storm. "Do you need help?" The luminous one spoke first, her voice like wind chimes in a breeze. "We are unharmed. Our vessel, however, has failed completely." She examined Devon with open curiosity, tilting her head in a gesture that was almost human. "You are the human who cultivates the earth flora. We have observed your dwelling. You've been watching me?" Devon felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain. The silver-eyed one stepped forward, her movements graceful despite the rough terrain. "Not with malicious intent. Your home emanates such warmth. We are Celestines, travelers from the Andromeda Spiral. I am Sera. My companion is Pippa of the Luminae people." "Devon," he replied automatically. "Look, we should get inside. This storm is getting dangerous." He expected them to return to their damaged pod or call for help from their own kind. Instead, both small women followed him back to his research station without hesitation. Devon found himself leading two alien beings through his front door, watching as they gazed around his modest living space with expressions of wonder. "This is extraordinary," Pippa breathed, touching the fabric of his couch with reverent fingers. The textures, the colors, the way everything is arranged for comfort rather than mere function. Sera moved to his kitchen, where Devon had been preparing dinner before the crash. She examined the vegetables he had been cutting, the pot of soup simmering on the stove, the simple wooden cutting board his sister had given him as a farewell gift. "You create sustenance with such care. This is a ritual of love, is it not?" Devon felt oddly exposed, as if these strangers were reading his diary. "It's just cooking. Look, I can call the colony administration. They will arrange proper accommodations for you while your ship is repaired." "No." Both women spoke simultaneously, their voices harmonizing in a way that made Devon's chest tighten. Pippa approached him, her luminous skin casting soft shadows in his kitchen. We cannot stay in the colony proper. Too many minds, too much noise. But here, in your dwelling, there is peace. I felt it from orbit, Sera added, her silver eyes reflecting his confused face. A singular point of genuine contentment in a settlement full of striving and struggle. Humans are remarkable creatures, but most of you have forgotten how to simply be. Devon backed up until he hit the counter. You can't just decide to stay here. This is my home. I don't even know you. We understand your confusion, Pippa said gently. Our species are very different from yours, but we recognize something in you that we have been searching for across many worlds. The ability to create sanctuary not through technology or power, but through simple, intentional kindness. Sera touched the soup pot, her hand hovering just above the steam. In our cultures, we have lost this knowledge. The Celestines travel endlessly, never settling, never building homes. The Luminae pursue perfect logic, but have forgotten the logic of the heart. Devon looked between them, these two tiny alien women standing in his kitchen with expressions that mixed hope and determination. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, his carefully constructed solitude was crumbling. Just for tonight, he heard himself say, until the storm passes. But somehow, he already knew that morning would not change their minds. The morning sun of New Meridian rose in shades of coral and gold, painting Devon's greenhouse in colors that didn't exist on Earth. He had spent a restless night on his own couch, giving up his bedroom to the two unexpected guests. Sleep had come in fragments, interrupted by the awareness that two alien women were somehow occupying his space, his sanctuary, his carefully maintained isolation. When he finally gave up on rest and shuffled into the kitchen, he found both Pippa and Sera already awake. Pippa had somehow discovered his collection of tea, and the aroma of chamomile filled the air. Sera stood at the window, her glowing hair catching the early light, making his entire living room seem magical. "Good morning, Devon," Pippa said, her voice warm with genuine pleasure. She had arranged 3 cups on a small table, steam rising in delicate spirals. "We hope you do not mind. We wish to contribute to the household." Devon rubbed his eyes, trying to reconcile the surreal image before him with his understanding of reality. "You made tea. We observed your ritual last evening," Sera explained, turning from the window. "Humans find comfort in warm beverages and morning routines." It seemed appropriate. Devon sat down heavily, accepting the cup Pippa offered. The tea was perfect, exactly the right temperature and strength. That small detail unsettled him more than anything else. "We need to talk about yesterday, about you staying here." "We know what you will say," Pippa said softly, settling into the chair across from him. Her luminous skin seemed dimmer in daylight, less alien, more vulnerable. "You will remind us that this is your home, that we are strangers, that the proper authorities should be contacted." "Yes, exactly that." Devon took a sip of tea, grateful for something to do with his hands. "I'm not saying I want you to be uncomfortable, but there are protocols. The colony has facilities for off-world visitors." Sera joined them at the table, her movements carrying an otherworldly grace. "We visited those facilities when we first arrived on New Meridian 3 cycles ago. Sterile rooms filled with artificial air and harsh light. Beings from 100 worlds, all trying to conduct business or research, none of them truly seeing each other. 3 cycles." Devon's cup stopped halfway to his mouth. "You've been on this planet for 3 months?" Pippa nodded, her violet eyes meeting his with uncomfortable intensity. "We have been studying your colony, trying to understand humanity. Your species fascinates us. Devon, you are so young compared to most spacefaring races, yet you carry something within you that ancient civilizations have lost." "And what's that?" Devon asked, hearing the defensive edge in his own voice. "The capacity to hope," Sera said simply. "To build something beautiful not because it serves a grand purpose, but because beauty itself matters. You're a greenhouse, Devon. You speak to your plants. You adjust their environment with such precision, not for maximum yield, but for their well-being." Devon felt heat rising in his cheeks. "You were watching me that closely?" "We apologize if we have caused discomfort," Pippa said quickly, "but understand, for my people, the Luminae, Everything is measured and calculated. We have achieved great things through pure logic, but we have also become cold. Our families are arrangements of genetic compatibility. Our homes are optimized environments. We have forgotten what it means to care for something simply because we love it. Sera reached across the table, her hand stopping just short of touching Devon's. The Celestines are worse in our own way. We are nomads by nature, never staying anywhere long enough to form true bonds. We tell ourselves it's freedom, but it is also profound loneliness. I have traveled to 40 worlds, Devon, and not once have I felt what I felt when I stepped into your home last night. Which is what exactly? Devon asked, though part of him did want to know the answer. Safety, both women said together. The word hung in the air between them. Devon looked at his tea, at the morning light streaming through his windows, at these two small alien beings who had somehow seen into the loneliest parts of him without his permission. I came to New Meridian to be alone, he said quietly. After my sister died, after the funeral where everyone kept telling me to be strong, to move on, to remember she wouldn't want me to grieve. I needed space where no one would have expectations of me. Pippa's luminescence flickered with something that looked like compassion. We understand isolation, Devon. We are not here to burden you with expectations. We are here because in all our travels, across all the worlds we have seen, your dwelling is the first place that felt like what humans call home. That's not fair, Devon said, but his voice lacked conviction. You can't just decide that someone else's home becomes yours because you feel something. You are correct, Sera agreed. It is not logical. It is not proper by any cultural standard we know. But Devon, sometimes the heart recognizes truth before the mind can accept it. Devon stood abruptly, pacing to the window. His greenhouse stood beyond, his plants visible through the transparent walls. He had built all of this as a monument to solitude, a place where he could exist without the painful complications of connection. And now these two beings were asking him to let them dismantle everything he had constructed. What do you want from me? He asked, not turning around. Permission, Pippa said, to stay, to learn from you how to build a home, not just a dwelling, to understand how humans create warmth in the cold spaces between stars. And what do I get in return? The question came out harsher than he intended. Sera's reflection appeared in the window beside his. Companionship, if you'll accept it. Knowledge of worlds beyond your imagination. The chance to teach two lost souls what you have learned about making life worth living. Devon closed his eyes. He thought about his sister, about the promise he had made to her in the hospital. Live fully, she had whispered. Don't let grief make you small. He had thought running away to the frontier was fulfilling that promise. But maybe he had just been hiding. 2 weeks, he heard himself say. You can stay for 2 weeks. After that, we revisit this conversation. When he turned around, both Pippa and Sera were standing, their faces radiating joy so pure it made his chest ache. Pippa's skin glowed brighter, cycling through colors like a sunset. Sera's hair floated higher, each strand sparkling like captured starlight. Thank you, Devon Caster, Pippa said, her voice thick with emotion. We will honor this gift. Sera simply smiled, and Devon realized with a mixture of terror and excitement that his carefully controlled life had just become infinitely more complicated. But as he looked at these two small alien women standing in his kitchen, their happiness so genuine and unguarded, he felt something shift inside his chest. Perhaps, he thought, being alone and being safe were not the same thing after all. The 2 weeks became 3, then 4. Devon found his routine transformed in ways he could never have predicted. Pippa proved to be endlessly curious about earth botany, spending hours in the greenhouse asking questions that forced Devon to think about his work in entirely new ways. Why did he choose ceramic pots over metal? What made him decide a plant needed more space? How did he know when something was thriving versus merely surviving? It's instinct, he tried to explain one afternoon, checking the soil moisture of his tomato plants. You learn to read the signs. But instinct is simply accumulated observation combined with emotional processing, Pippa replied, her luminous fingers hovering over a basil plant. You are practicing a form of scientific intuition. It is beautiful. Sera had claimed a corner of his living space for what she called meditation. Though it looked more like floating, she would hover cross-legged in the air for hours, her silver eyes closed, her glowing hair spreading around her like a nebula. But in the evenings, she would help Devon prepare dinner, her movements in the kitchen becoming a kind of dance that he found himself anticipating throughout the day. "On my home world," Sera said one night while chopping vegetables with surprising skill, "food is consumed for efficiency, nutrient paste optimized for our biology. I never understood why humans made eating into a ceremony until I watched you cook." Devon stirred the pot, adding spices from his dwindling earth supply. "My grandmother taught me that cooking is an act of love. You're taking raw ingredients and transforming them into something that nourishes not just the body but the soul." "Your grandmother was wise," Sera said softly. "The Celestines would say she understood the poetry of existence." It was during the 5th week that everything changed. Devon woke to find both women sitting on his couch, their expressions serious in the early morning light. His heart sank, assuming they had finally decided to leave. "We need to tell you something," Pippa began, her usual brightness subdued. "Our presence here has not gone unnoticed by our respective peoples." Devon sat down across from them, suddenly awake. "What does that mean?" Sera's silver eyes met his. "The Luminae Council has ordered Pippa to return. They view her extended stay with a human as a cultural contamination. Similarly, my clan has declared that I am neglecting my duties as a Celestine observer." "So you have to go," Devon said, surprised by the hollow feeling in his chest. "We have been given a choice," Pippa said carefully. "We can return to our people and resume our previous lives, or we can formally declare our intention to remain on New Meridian, which would mean severing ties with our civilizations." Devon stared at them. "That's insane. You can't give up your entire cultures because of a few weeks in my house." "It is not about the house, Devon," Sera said gently. "It is about what we have discovered here. Pippa has learned that logic without warmth is merely computation. I have learned that freedom without connection is just another form of imprisonment." Pippa leaned forward, her violet eyes intense. "We have both traveled across galaxies, seeking something we could not name, and we found it in the way you trim dead leaves from your plants with such care, in the way you make tea not because you need caffeine, but because the ritual brings you peace, in the way you have slowly, almost against your will, allowed us into your life. But what about me?" Devon asked, his voice raw. "What if I'm not ready for this? What if I'm still broken from losing my sister?" Sera moved to kneel in front of him, her small hands taking his larger ones. "Devon, you are not broken. You are healing, and perhaps we are all healing together. My people believe that the universe speaks to us through encounters," Pippa added, "that nothing is random. The fact that our ship failed precisely above your home, that we crashed into your field instead of anywhere else in the colony, that you ran out into a storm to help us. Perhaps these are not coincidences." Devon looked at their faces, these two small alien women who had invaded his sanctuary and somehow made it feel more like home than it ever had when he was alone. He thought about his sister's last words. "Live fully. Don't let grief make you small. If you stay," he said slowly, "everything changes. For all of us, the colony will have opinions. Your people will have consequences. We don't even know if this can work." "Nothing worth doing comes with guarantees," Sera said, her thumbs tracing small circles on the back of his hands. "But Devon, I have observed countless species across the galaxy. I have seen civilizations rise and fall, and I have never in all my travels felt what I feel when I am here with you and Pippa. It defies my training. It confounds my logic. And yet it is the most real thing I have ever known.